Welcome to 6 African Trade Talks. I'm your host, Chad, and I would like to thank you all for listening to our podcast and for supporting us. This episode is called the Intra-Africa Trade Update Podcast. Why are we doing this? From the start of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area this year, we found it important to update you and give you a few insights on the things that would have been happening in the Intra-Africa Trade, Africa Continental Free Trade Area space. So thank you very much. And if you would like us to share some insights, please feel free to email us and suggest what you'd like to hear. We believe that for Africa to go forward, everyone has to be involved. And by listening to our podcast and by sharing our podcast with your friends and family and colleagues, you are already participating in making a better Africa. So today, we're going to have 10 points or the 10 areas that I would like to share progress about. So the first one, I would like to share with you the background of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, where it started. So basically, we know the journey from Berlin Conference to the formation of the Organization of African Union and to the establishment of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement in Rwanda in 2018, to the beginning and the launch of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which started on the 1st of January 2021. So who is ready? 3 countries, South Africa, Ghana, and Egypt. They are all ready to trade. Or have they started trading? No, they have not started trading. And the reason why they have not started trading is, for example, let's look at South Africa. South Africa is a member of SACU. SACU is the Southern African Customs Union, where there is South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, Swaziland, and they already had their own customs union. And because they are party to this agreement, it's important for all the members of this agreement to have signed and ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement in order for the other member to be able to start trading. So South Africa has a predicament. Botswana has not signed and ratified the agreement. So South Africa is waiting for Botswana to sign and ratify the agreement in order for them to then move forward. Now, let's move to the next one. What does the agreement entail? So here is a low-hanging fruit. Trade in goods, free movement of goods. That's one area that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is going to address. But you cannot address the free movement of goods without looking at issues like rules of origin. So there are 41 member states that have been involved in the reduction schedules, or that have been party to the reduction schedules, tariff reduction schedules. And for you to get to this level, you have to look at issues of rules of origin first, so that we make sure that when goods are coming from China or UK, they won't be labeled as goods that are coming from Africa when they come via a country that has got a seaport and moving inland into Africa. So it's an important area for Africa to look at and for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to look at. Phase out 90% of tariff lines. What is this all about? So for the next 5 years, the countries that have been identified or categorized as the developed African countries will be phasing out up to 90% of their import tariffs. Then those that have been identified, so an example that I can give you is South Africa is a country that has been identified as a developed African country. Egypt as well is a developed African country. So if you're doing business in these countries, or the list of the countries that have been identified as the developed countries, you need to know that in the next 5 years, you will be able to import goods from other African countries into these countries at 10% duty or less. Now, the next one is the least developed countries. The least developed countries have been given 10 years to reach the level of 90% tariff reduction. Who are the examples of the least developed countries? So countries like Angola, Ethiopia, Chad, the Democratic Republic of Congo are labeled as the least developed countries. So it is going to take 10 years for duty reduction to happen in the least developed countries. Then the last segment is the G6. Who are the G6? So in the G6, you find countries like Zimbabwe, Malawi, Sudan. Those are countries that have been labeled as part of the G6 countries. And these are countries that are at a more disadvantaged industrial development as compared to the two other segments. So these ones will take up to 15 years to reach 90% duty reduction. Now, after the duty reduction, we also would like to look at IP, intellectual property. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is looking at IP. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is looking at issues to do with fair competition and investment frameworks, which they believe that by 2022, they would have reached a good milestone as far as this is concerned. So we're looking forward to these positive prospects. Now, number 2, let's look at the Secretariat. Who is the Secretariat? The Secretariat was established in Ghana in August 2020, the same month that we started our podcast, 6 African Trade Talks. And the Secretariat is in charge of planning, management, implementation, administrative, technical support of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. This is just some of the things that the Secretariat looks at. And the Secretariat is also looking at digital payment solutions, and some progress has been made, which takes us to number 3. The African Import and Export Bank, Afrexim Bank, have created a relationship in partnership with the Secretariat, where the two are looking at ways of reducing some of the bottlenecks in movement of funds across African countries. And this entails looking at digital solutions as far as movement of funds and transactions across Africa. So the Africa Import and Export Bank has launched an initiative called the Pan-African Payment and Settlement Platform, PAPS. This platform is going to reduce the turnaround time of moving funds across African countries. And this is a great initiative that could lead us to a one currency Africa in the near future. That's our number 3. Number 4, we move back to the Secretary General. So the Secretary General office is in Ghana, and the Secretary General is Wamkele Mene. Wamkele is a South African who has been leading in the trade liberalization and trade space in South Africa. And he is the first Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And one of the key things that he would want to see is how we could improve informal trade and tap into the $50 billion per annum informal trade market across Africa. By tapping into this and reducing trade transaction costs, it will then improve and hopefully boost intra-Africa trade. So that's number 4. Number 5, Ethiopian Airlines, DHL, and African Electronic Trade Group have partnered to transport historical parcels. This was launched in January at the beginning of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So what does this mean to you? If you're in Africa, or if you're looking at Africa, this is an opportunity to look at the e-commerce sector or e-commerce opportunities across Africa, because Ethiopian Airlines is the biggest airline in Africa, and it is partnered with DHL, who has been in Africa for quite some time and understands how last mile deliveries work in Africa. And DHL has got what they call the multimodal way of movement of goods. So this is something interesting if you're looking at the e-commerce space, or if you're looking at investing in Africa as an African or even as an outsider. Number 6, we're going to look at Brexit. Why are we looking at Brexit when we're talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area? It's quite interesting. So Brexit has opened an opportunity for SACU, countries in SACU and Mozambique. So they've an agreement, which is an economic partnership agreement called the UK-SACU-M. What is the UK-SACU-M? So countries in the SACU region and Mozambique will be able to export certain goods that would have been identified in the agreement duty-free into the UK. So there will be a duty-free quota to export these goods into the UK, except domestic sensitive products. So there are certain products that are made in the UK that will be protected. Those that are not made in the UK or that are seasonal possibly will then be coming into the free duty quota. However, there is currently no trade in services, but maybe in future it might come. So this is the update on the UK Brexit and UK SACU-M agreement. Money and investment is number 7. There's been $194 million that has been put aside or raised to rehabilitate Beitbridge, a group of banks which include RMB Rand Merchant Bank, Standard Bank South Africa, Nedbank, ABSA, Afreximbank, and the Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund, EAIF, have come together to raise $194 million to improve Beitbridge. Beitbridge has been a bottleneck. So if you don't know much about Beitbridge, Beitbridge is a border between Zimbabwe and South Africa, and the gateway for anything that's coming out of South Africa or that would have come through the ports of South Africa from other African countries. It's a gateway into North of Africa, which is Zimbabwe, Malawi, some parts of Mozambique, Zambia, and to some extent, some parts of Tanzania and DRC, if need be. So, Beitbridge is a critical border. Just to give you some statistics, Beitbridge border per day, there are more than 2,000 trucks that cross that border per day under normal circumstances. There have been issues, however, around the COVID-19 environment in terms of movement of goods, because there have been quite a number of limitations. So that is the update as far as money and investment is concerned around the intra-Africa trade. This is very big. Number 8, Mauritania signed FEDA agreement. What is FEDA? FEDA is the Fund for Export Development Africa, an initiative of the Africa Import and Export Bank, Afreximbank. I spoke about it earlier on. There was a need for 2 countries to sign this agreement in order for it to come into effect. So the 2 countries, Rwanda signed last year and Mauritania has just signed, giving us in Africa an opportunity to tap into the private equity gap of 110 billion per annum for intra-Africa trade and export development. So Afreximbank has taken the initiative to champion funding for intra-Africa trade and export development through FEDA, something that you really need to look into and understand, because you will be able to get some funding there if your project makes sense. And some of the requirements of FEDA is that they are looking at investments around the $5 million mark and above. So this is something that I can share with you guys. Number 9, Tanzania has become one of the member countries of the One Network area. The One Network Africa is an initiative in East Africa which is going to also improve intra-Africa trade. Kenya has been part and parcel of the initiative, which started in 2015, which entails that countries that are members of the initiative will have sort of favorable roaming rates, as an example, and this will then roaming telephone rates, cell phone rates, which will then improve communication and in turn improve trade and intra-Africa trade. Tanzania has entered into the One Network area, which is a low cost of communication model that has been started in the East Africa region. One Network area owner supports and facilitates the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and it was launched in January 2015, which entails that roaming tariffs as per initiatives will be favorable to the countries that are part and parcel of this agreement. Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and South Sudan are already part and parcel of this agreement. This is an initiative that also shows us that one day there is a possibility that we will have one Africa as far as communication is concerned and tariffs, and have one roaming platform across Africa. Number 10, FDI. There's been a global decline in FDI from 1.5 trillion in 2019 to 859 billion, according to the UNCTAD investment trend of 24 January 2020. However, the positive is that even though Africa was down by 18%, there's been quite a significant number, up to 76% of FDI going into emerging and developing markets. So I think and I believe that there is still great hope and potential in Africa from an FDI point. Yes, the COVID-19 and the environment around COVID-19 has had a huge impact in Africa, but we will see it through. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast. As a way of supporting our podcast, may you please leave a review every time you listen, or whenever you can when you listen to a podcast episode that you like. Thank you very much, and we'll bring you another Intra-Africa Trade Progress update at the end of February.